On the podcast today, we have Coach Brian Rother, pole vault coach at San Clemente High School, running in lane 5. Brian! We did not just film 30 minutes without knowing that the microphone was off.
No, it's
not
not
at
like
all.
we would waste battery and time like that.
No.
My battery's
Get
at
into
100.
it. Dude, I'm ready to
My
go.
internal battery's at 100.
I love it.
So
I love it.
I'm good.
Well, Brian Rother, welcome.
Honored to be here.
We are going to call this episode Track Talk.
Let's talk track.
Yeah, it's kind of like trash talk. You want to race?
On your mark.
Something
Get
over?
set. Go! You're watching or listening to the Myosynergy Performance Smile podcast.
That's right.
Turn that frown upside down and shove it
Yeah. Somewhere else.
Somewhere else. Get it away from me.
Track season just ended, and then we don't know what to do with our lives because, so here we still are.
Yep.
On a Monday at
Talking track.
Chilling
in lane 5. A couple of burnouts.
So, Brian, how long have you been coaching here at San Clemente?
I've been coaching here for 10 years now.
10 years.
10 years.
How
yes.
has that gone by so fast?
Oh my God. I don't know. I mean, the seasons go by so fast. Like, it's 8 weeks that the meets happen.
Yeah.
It's just we prepare all year and then it's over. It's gone by fast. Of course, everything goes by fast when you look at it from after. You've been here 10 years, or you've been coaching 10 years.
Yeah.
Too.
I mean, I came over to San Clemente, I think 2014.
Okay, yeah, that's right before I came over.
Yeah, 2014, 2015, and I was gone in Hawaii for a little bit, and then Mission pulled me back over, and I was trying to do both. I might have Diablo blood, but I think I'm an adopted Triton sometimes, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes. You're like Kramer. You just sometimes you just come back whenever you feel like it, and then you go back up the freeway.
Sometimes I just follow my hurdle talent as well. I think.
This is my alma mater, high school, yeah.
Right.
So, like, for you, I'm sure it's exciting to get Mission. It's like a thing.
Yeah. Okay, you just talk about the end or how your season went this year.
For us, it was the best season ever.
Yeah.
By far. Four of my girls were on the all-time top 10 list here.
What?
They all were over 10 feet. I had 4 boys over 12 feet.
Oh my gosh.
We dominated league. Dominated. And then we broke both school records in the same day. So, right here. Like,
this guy.
right there.
Yeah.
Those guys. So that's my bragging session.
Yeah.
Very proud of them. Very proud of them. Best year ever.
And you had good success with Saddleback, too,
yeah,
right?
A little bit of luck, but also a lot of adapting to some bad conditions.
Yeah.
My vaulter won the state championship.
Okay.
For the first time since 2011, I think.
Oh, that's
since Saddlebacks won the vault.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
that's so cool. Those kinds of rewards, like as a coach, that's what keeps us coming back. Like I got one that's going after my school record that's still at Mission, and so it's fun to be a part of that. Those elements of getting into track season, the competition, it's a love-hate, but mostly love.
Mostly love.
Yeah.
When people ask, like, well, what if someone breaks your record? They act like I should be upset about it.
Yeah.
But, like, I don't know about you, but...
For a while, I'll admit, I was, like, not wanting anyone to break it because it's just, like, and it's just so fun to have that title. And it's been 16 years, and I broke a record that was 10 years standing before that. Wow. But I think coaching the girl that could potentially do that makes me still feel like I'm a part of it and that I'm able to like hand that down. So, fingers crossed that I continue to be a good coach to get them to break that and take my name down. But yeah, let's get into some of the elements of track and field. And I think we were talking about this before, how hard track and field is to begin with, how pure that you were saying that it's just something that you really can't do anything halfway. You have to put in the work. You have to put in that effort to see the results. So tell me from your experience coaching, what are some of these elements that you see that you have to teach these kids, whether it's mentally, physically, how do they...
Well, first of all, whether you're a track person or not, you should know that every event in our sport, every event in track and field is derived from a form of warfare. That's where it comes from. That's where, like, Olympics were all started around this, right? Send your best athlete, send your best competitor against mine, and we can settle it in the Coliseum as opposed to on the battlefield, right?
Yeah.
So every event that we have is derived from a form of warfare.
That's insane.
Some are more obvious than others, but you know, and you could break the rules back down to the original, but so that's it is pure. What you put in, what you get out. Like input, output. As I said, you're not going to take all of your off season off and just show up at a track meet and break the world record or break your personal record. It doesn't happen like that.
No.
It's a lot of work, and sometimes it's not as fun as other things in other sports.
No, it's really, I think one of the funniest shirts I ever saw was like, our sport is what your sport does for punishment.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
I mean, it's true. Track and field is really, really tough. There's this gap between, I think, being able to push themselves and like do hard things. So I think they come out for track and they don't know how difficult track and field really is. And like, oh, how hard can running be? Oh, well, once you get doing multiple 300s, and by the second one, you're like, oh, this is hard. My body hurts. Mm-hmm. Coach, I'm hurting. And I'm like, okay. And like the injury background side of me is like, okay, what's wrong? As your hamstring or whatever. And they're like, oh, it just hurts. And I'm like, oh yeah, like you haven't pushed your body to its limits before. Mm-hmm. And they have to learn how to constantly fail in a way, and be okay with failing in order to get better. And I think that's the pattern of physiology. It's the pattern of, you have to like break down muscle to build it back up. And track will break kids to the core. Yeah. But they keep coming back for whatever reason, you know?
Some of them do.
Some of them do. They really do have to learn how to push themselves. And so I think post-COVID, I think their lives stopped, the world stopped. The 2020 freshman class just graduated. And I think for them, it was hard for them to kind of learn and come back how to like mentally push themselves when they were used to like sitting inside all day and like not doing anything. So putting yourself to a physical limit takes mental strength and mental toughness to push past pain, and that is track equals pain most of the time. And it might be different with pole vault, but what have you seen?
Yeah, I think hard work is like a lost art. For me, it's not just COVID. I think it's been happening since our grandparents won World War II.
Yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Like to zoom completely out.
Right.
I think that we've been getting softer and softer and softer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We previously talked about how this upcoming generation, they're a little bit softer sometimes, and I think a little bit more delicate than past generations. So how do you overcome that?
Well, so I'm lucky to start with such a fun, like, activity, you know? Everyone wants to, well, not everyone wants to try it, but it's so interesting. You know? And if someone walks by it and they have the chance to just grab a pole and jump on the mat, like, they're going to want to. You know? It's so fun. And there's a lot to it. So I think that draws kids in. And then, well, now I have a culture. You know, I have a bit of a culture. And the team has a personality. And part of that is that they're friends, you know, but they also, like, do the work.
You've worked really, really hard. I'll brag for Brian. He's worked so hard to build this culture at San Clemente for pole vault specifically, and I dealt with it when I was coaching hurdles. You really have to get their buy-in, and once you get a few kids that are super into it, then it kind of just sets the pace for the freshmen that come in, and you know, once there's this culture established, that relationship and respect that they have for their coach, that is something I think is a coach's responsibility to create and to establish within their little group. I think track is so tough because there's one kid does 4 different events, but also to be able to create that culture within the team, but also within the event specific coach too is tough, and to get everybody on the same page, because coaches, we talked about before, have so many different types of personalities. I'm a little bit more friendly and probably should be a little bit more disciplined at times.
Yeah. And I'm on the other side for sure. I actually find it very difficult to be so nice. It's just every kid is different.
Yeah.
And every day it's something. Oftentimes I drive to the school and I'm like, I'm going to be so much nicer today. And then the first kid I see is like, hey, I have to leave early because I have a doctor's appointment. I'm supposed to be nice, but like, why'd you make an appointment during practice? Like, don't make it during practice.
Okay,
My mom did it.
Well,
she shouldn't have. You will make it up
This
tomorrow.
is a class period.
And I love you.
And
that's discipline. I mean, I think like consequence is just such a huge word for me, whether it's track or life. Like, there are no consequences in society anymore.
100%.
And there are no consequences when we show up at the school today and there's holes in our track. There's full-on holes, rips in our track. Like, whether it's from the maintenance team that tore down graduation, or it's just kids that ride here on their e-bikes and just rip up the, like, there are no consequences anymore.
Yeah.
And I am fighting the good fight to bring that back. So I think when kids join my program, they're often taken back by, it's a little bit jarring.
Yes.
Like, it's something that they need.
Yeah.
Like, they don't have, but they need.
Yes. Agreed.
Their teachers aren't allowed to do it. Their parents, almost to the point where their parents aren't allowed to discipline kids. Like, where did it go? And what are we thinking we're going to accomplish without discipline in a sport that is all about discipline? Like, you show up in your practices running hills. Like you said, that's a punishment for most other sports.
Yes.
So,
but even then, it's like you can't punish kids with like activities anymore.
I
agree, and I think there's so, like, we were talking about how kind of like this has created a softness, and track is a sport where you have to push yourself to, like, especially in the running, and pole vault too. I think it's more technical, to where you have to like really tap into that technique and stuff, and these events where it is you're laying it all out there. And for me, it's been tough to teach my kids to, like, hey, you got to run fast. Like, I've seen you run faster. You can finish this workout. And they get everything on the spot. The internet and everything else, everything is just like handed to them, and they're expecting to get the result without putting in the work. And I think that is one of the cool things about track, that we get to teach them that if you don't do the workouts, like, you're going to be slow and you're going to embarrass yourself when you're the last one crossing the finish line. I don't mean to like rag on these kids.
But that like, that failure of them like not meeting a goal, I think is very valuable to them.
Yeah.
Because if they come back the next year, hopefully they don't still believe that. Hopefully they get that if you do this, this happens. If you do this, this happens.
Yes.
Those are consequences.
Consequences.
It's just life. Like, life has consequences.
Yeah.
All day, all night, and our society has been pretending like we kind of don't.
I think that's true, and I see that translate in, you know, what these kids want to show up for, and what, you know, how much work they really want to put in to be good. It's like, if you want to go to college, okay, this is what you need to do to get there, and if that's like too hard for you, then too bad. You're not gonna make it. You know, we have the ability to teach them that, where they're not gonna get it anywhere else. But I also think that it's frustrating performance wise, because you have to like go back and teach them those skills from the beginning. That's why I have this podcast too, is to create awareness of what athletes need to do outside of just their sport, like take care of their spiritual, mental, physical, financial or educational for those that are not on their own yet, and then like social. Like, all of these aspects come together to create this like synergy to create a good performance. I see a lot of kids have, trouble at home, and they're just like mentally like out of it, and I think it's important as us coaches to take those different things into account too, because we can see when someone's having an off day. We can tell if there's something else going on. And I'm sure, with as technical as pole vault is, do you see that a lot? Yeah. Like, kids are just off
all the time.
Yeah,
all the time. And like, especially with the girls, I think it's very important to be connected to them.
Yeah.
So that they feel like you care about them.
Yes.
They can't it doesn't work like it does with boys.
And I learned this is kind of like in our biology is we tend to take things more personally and blame ourselves rather than like guys like will blame like, oh, it's the weather. Girls kind of internalize things, and I didn't realize it's a physiological thing for us. We are wired to think more that way. So you probably learned that maybe the hard way.
Yeah, I do, and I do it all the time. Like, man, I make these mistakes like every day. I drive home and I'm like, oh my God, I did it again. Like, you know.
Yeah.
But being connected to the kids is very important. Like, as a coach, one of our main objectives is to motivate them.
Right.
You know, and if they are going through something, and most of them are all the time, or multiple things, and they feel like you don't care about that, they don't care about you, and they and like some of them act spiteful and almost like do bad on purpose. Whether you know it or not, you are also a sports psychologist, and you are also a counselor, and you are also a mentor and an example. You know, you are all those things, whether you know it or not.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that these kids get to learn things from us that they don't get to learn other places. So
feedback. Right.
Well, hopefully my battery's not dead.
Take your time. Take your time. Lane 5. Okay, good. Get down and give me like go in 10 seconds from right now. Just waiting for my host. There she is.
Oh my gosh.
I don't know. I think probably like you, was in sports my whole life.
Right.
And I didn't know a time before that. I think I'm kind of like blind because I'm too close to it to really see like the effects it has on the rest of life.
Like not doing a sport or
like what sports does for you.
Yeah.
Other than in the sport.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
Because like I only know my character, and I've always been in sports.
Right.
So I don't know what I would have been like without it.
I think something that track has taught me is one, goal setting, because you're always working towards your own PR, right? Your own like personal best. And then being able to translate pushing through the hurt and the tough times to reach, you know, an end goal. And that's kind of like stayed with me. I think I've channeled more into that in later years rather than being so worried about being the best hurdle coach or knowing the best like technique or whatever else. And it's like, hey, if I can get my athletes to trust me, to trust the process, we always say at Mission that, you know, it's going to be hard. You're going to have good days. You're going to have bad days. I remember as a senior, I had days where I couldn't even get over the first hurdle out of blocks when I had been doing this for 4 years. You just have to learn how to shake things off and to teach them. I think they're so hard on themselves. I don't know if you do stuff like this too. It's like they're afraid of, you know, the full height of the hurdles, right? Well, when they're not looking, I'll put the hurdles up or down or whatever.
You know, we do that.
Have them run and they're like, Coach, when are we going to put the hurdles up? And like, go check the height and see what? And so there's so much, and we, you know, I think we've talked about how maybe soft or whatever they are, but they're so much more capable than they think they are, or than they know they are. And so that is the fun aspect to bring out, like, hey, you didn't even think or believe that you could do that, but you just did it without even thinking about it.
Well, we literally do the same exact thing because like kids are like, hey, can I get a bar up at 10.6?
Yeah.
You know I'm going to put it at 11.
Yes.
And I've had them PR that way.
Yes.
When they don't know it, but
I love it.
When they know the bar's up that high, sometimes they just lose their minds.
Even though track is an individual sport, it's also been harder to teach these athletes to like be a part of a team sometimes, because like, hey, your performance is going to be affecting the whole entire team, but track is this hard balance of it's an individual sport. And I find a lot of athletes sometimes just don't care as much about the team as they do themselves. Because when I was there, like, yeah, you step up for your team. I have to like recreate that culture for them because maybe they don't know.
Well, pole vaulters, I think in general have like a cross team camaraderie, and maybe it's just because there's a little bit more of a risk involved, but you often see teams like loaning poles to other teams and you know, cheering and encouraging them on and talking while they're waiting in line and all that.
That's cool.
It's just part of it, you know. Like, I think most of us would rather everybody PR and jump their highest than to win the meet.
Well, Brian, how do you feel like we can get back to that mental toughness that, say, our grandparents and great-grandparents had? What do you think?
I mean,
how does that
I know
all
it
go?
sounds dramatic, but it's like a complete wide lens.
Yeah.
You know, that's just like the grand scheme of things. This planet, this country has gotten softer since then.
Yeah.
You know, our parents had it so good.
Uh-huh.
They had good times because of their strong parents.
Yeah.
Strong men created good times.
Yeah.
And those good times are breeding weakness.
Yeah.
Or they say weak men.
Yeah.
And that's where we are. And I don't think it's going to take long for people to realize the choices that we're making as a society, as a government, they don't work, and they're not helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not going to be long before we round the corner and hit our head against a brick wall, because you can't go much farther. We act like this is the first time that we've progressed this far, but it's not.
Yeah.
This is actually the breaking point between when things just completely collapse,
right,
and things have to right their course and survive.
Yes.
Because life is harsh.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, life is hard, life is harsh, the way of nature is hard, and we're all acting like we're above that, and like we're just trying to make things easier, and it's not helping. No,
it's not. And back to, like, you have to have some sort of resistance to make you stronger. You have to overcome a failure. You have to overcome that resistance in order to build back that muscle to succeed over and over again. And so, I mean, track and field, like you were talking about, everything kind of stems from from this strategy,
mm-hmm.
right?
Track and field is a perfect metaphor for it.
Absolutely.
Like, in the way you said it, strength, like, resistance breeds strength, you know?
Yeah.
Like, if you're lifting weights, you get stronger lifting weights by lifting more weight.
Right.
Or resistance.
Right.
You know? You don't do it by just lifting the bar.
No, or just looking at it, or talking crap about it, or
posting pictures of weights on Instagram.
It's not going to do anything for you. So I agree that track is so metaphorically fundamental for these basic concepts to teach strength, physical and mental strength. I think it's so straight up that it hopefully will teach kids how to push themselves through it. You have to go through that, like, rough grinding period to be able to get the results that you're looking for. It's not just going to come naturally. You can't just walk out onto the track. Some people get away with natural talent for a time, mm-hmm. but then, you know, I think there's only limits themselves so much before they have to, like, put in the work.
Yeah.
So
absolutely. I think things are coming around. Like, a kid I know was just saying, oh yeah, like, the newest thing is to, like, get a disposable camera, because do you know you actually have to wait for the pictures? Like, yes, we know that. We're old enough for that. What? Wait, what? You know, it's like this culture of, like, instant gratification.
Yes.
I can see pieces of its end. Right. I can see light at the end of the tunnel, because these kids are realizing, like, this isn't good for me. They actually miss reality. They miss reality.
Yes.
And to the point where they want to buy something, like, old and analog, where they have to wait for the pictures to get developed, because it's more of an experience, like, in real life.
Yes. Okay.
And it adds to the whole thing. So it's like, I don't know. It's gonna be such a great thing when whatever generation it is decides that cell phones are just a part of life.
I, like, heard someone say, like, your most important relationship that you have these days is with your cell phone. And I think these kids get access to the entire world at their fingertips. We learn how to really create boundaries with that and step aside. Track, you have to do that. You have to learn to be present. You know, how does that apply to, like, pole vault, and how technical that is? If your kids are not present when they're vaulting,
it doesn't do much of anything. I mean, you're not going to see much change, right?
Right.
Like your event too. Really anything.
Mm-hmm. They're in their heads.
And these kids have so much stuff in their heads, like school, work, family, growing up, and
mm-hmm.
everything, and their insecurities and their bodies, everything, their friends. So there's always multiple things going on with every kid. It's not easy. I think it's our responsibility to keep them feeling successful enough in a sport that's like the majority of it is repetitive failure. They have to have little like plateau successful things, even if it's daily. Like,
yes,
just make it clear that they did good, and that there's praise and encouragement and reassurance.
Yes.
You need lots of reassurance.
Yes, I do think that's important, because track can beat you down, you know, if you're not getting something like right away. And we have good days and bad days, but I think that's important, and you're helping them be in the moment. And like I said, when we can get them out of their heads and to just go, they don't know how capable they are of some of these things, and competing and performing, and it's like, what did you do on that last one? It was perfect. They're like, I don't know, I just ran. I'm like, great, perfect. Yeah. Like, don't like, that's it. You know, don't think about it. Don't think too much. Something that is more so learned, that's then more natural these days, and hopefully, like you were saying, things will come back around.
Well, we were talking about like being part of a team.
Oh yeah.
Right? But it's individual.
Yes.
It's interesting. It's like, yeah, maybe you're that kid who just wants to do his work and go home.
Yeah.
But like, some of the other kids are going to need you, even if it's just for like your support.
Absolutely.
Even if it's like a thumbs up to some kid that feels like he could never talk to you. Like,
right.
Just like
right.
something like that goes so
yeah.
far.
Yeah.
So.
Well, why do you think I run to the last 150 mark every single 4x4?
That's our spot.
Yeah.
Yeah, cheer on the 4x4 in the dead zone
Turn
over
the camera.
there, right before the gorilla jumps on your back.
I mean, it's just this, it's an electric feeling that you get, this like almost extra super rush of adrenaline when you see, it just pushes you to do things that you wouldn't normally like mentally push yourself to do, but when you have that knowing of other people are counting on you, and like as you're running, like especially the distance races or a really hard race, like that's motivating. And so I think to create that goes back to team culture a little bit, to help them understand, hey, we're all doing this. Your 3 points that you scored here are gonna go match with their 5 points, and this, and then create a team win or championship together, but individual at the same time. So
yeah, well, I mean, it's the same reason that lots of people hire athletic trainers.
Yeah.
It's not because they can't train themselves.
Right.
It's because they don't want to do it alone.
Yes.
So, you know, that's the work we do. Yeah. We're not on like the court together.
Yeah.
Or whatever. I mean, in a relay we are.
Right.
But otherwise, it's individual. The performance is individual, but you all train together. You practice together.
Yes.
The good and the bad and the hard work and all that, like the style and what you do, it's all as a team.
Yeah. Yeah.
So.
No, that's good. And I think you've done a fantastic job with your vaulters and the culture there. People have respect for you. I know they're like, yeah, Coach Brian and the vaulters, and it's like, oh, don't mess with Coach Brian. But you've got your own thing going on that's been so great, and
yep.
And it shows. So I hope you're recognized for that.
Well, it's not what it's about, Chelsea. I'm learning. We're both learning.
Yeah.
We're always learning.
Always learning.
Humbled all the time.
Yeah.
Literally, like 2 nights ago, humbled. Something I'd never thought about. So simple. You ask anyone, even non-pole vaulter, they'd be like, yeah, duh. I was like, I didn't think about that in 10 years, you know? So there's always things that we can learn. Yeah,
we're always learning, always growing. Found what works for me as a coach. And I don't know, I've said this before, that like I'm not out to like be, you know, the best coach that knows like everything. I'm going to do what works for me and what works for my athletes. No.
You said it. You can't please everybody. If you don't like my opinions, don't go. We can both help coaches.
Yeah.
I can help that one coach who maybe they only have 6 poles and their pit is 30 years old.
Right.
But I want their athletes safe.
Yes.
And I want my sport to continue to exist.
Right.
I don't want something terrible to happen and pole vault to go away forever.
Right.
You know, but the same for you. Like you,
absolutely. You
can help coaches too. We can all help certain coaches with our experience, and we can all learn a lot from other coaches too. Yeah, but I like it. I do too. 10 plus years, we're still here, chilling in lane 5. Chilling in lane 5. We can save the world. Let's do it. One track athlete at a time. Let's do it. We'll go follow Clear Sky Pole Vault. We'll link your stuff below, as they say.
subscribe and like and
smash that like button, but don't do it
Yeah.
unless you want to.
All right, we're gonna sign this sucker off so
All right.
we don't lose it.
Gotta run.